Hello, welcome to my presentation for Module 3 of my Diploma in Project Management. This is my presentation for stakeholder meeting for task 4. So it's relating to essential information for my stakeholders. I'm going to speak about the emergency oxygen issue that it's an ongoing process right now. So the communication process was to immediately gather all the stakeholders and then explain to them the situation that we are in now with regards to the N2 bottles and agrees on the bottleneck. We received information from Pilatus Engineering, the aircraft manufacturers, that they will try their best to send extra bottles down from Pilatus in Switzerland to us to service our aircraft. So this information was relayed to our stakeholders, our customers, and they were very supportive of the information that was provided to them, and they are willing to slide back their flying program. They told us to take our time. This error wasn't created by us, it was a subcontractor's error to produce the aircraft safely for them, for their flying. So do not take into consideration for the delays that we may cause. We can catch that up over the time. So the essential information was to collect information, pass it over to my stakeholders, and the feedback that we got back from them was very good. So the key considerations that are important for my stakeholders now is that we are tracking and monitoring the new shipment of N2 bottles that are coming from Switzerland. We have sent a batch of swab tests that we perform on the N2 bottles. On the rim, on the bottleneck area, we test it for any lubrication contamination. So we are tracking that from the laboratory to come back to us and say that there is no other contaminations, and we can fit all these bottles back onto the aircraft and we can resume normal flying. So this is what we are monitoring and what we are tracking to assist with catching up with the flying hours. So next, I'd like to share with you the HR requirements and the work breakdown structure. So for the HR requirements in the work breakdown structure would be the technician's qualifications. The resources would be ground jacks, GPU, overhead cranes for the ejection seat removals. Depending on aircraft would be the tools. Main landing gear would be the hydraulic rig so that we can do system checks on it. Additional electronic components for software diagnostics. Landing gear functional checks would be the jacks that we need, sources that we need to send for calibration. So there were times where the items were not received due to long lag times from our subcontractors. For low power ground run would be the Bowser section for fuel. That's a resource that we require as well. Our technicians need to be qualified, need to be fire trained, health safety trained as well, knowing how to use spill kits, for example. And lastly, the independent checker. He must have gone through a few training sessions, must be pretty much experienced and understand what to look for in independent inspections. So next, I'd like to talk about skill analysis. So for towing of the aircraft in the work breakdown structure, the technician must have a Class C, valid Class C license. He must have gone through orientation of a tractor and understanding the radius that you can turn with an aircraft. So for depending on aircraft, this technician must be qualified A-level technicians, understand all the panels that also understand where we can work out the correct tools for the correct job, for the correct screws and correct nuts that we have already on the aircraft. So for landing gear inspection, the skills and competency would be, he must be qualified B-level, which means he must have got Cert 4 in airframe and engine, aircraft ground equipment and tools orientation. So understand our tooling system in the hangar when we are doing depaneling processes. All the screws and the panel must be labeled for quality assurances and not to misplace them. So the bags must come with also a tagging that says of the aircraft tail number. So for avionics, the technician must have gone through the Pilates engineering avionics system course, preferably having a cert 4 in avionics systems. Lastly would be ground power run. So this would be a airframe and engine guy. He must have gone through 15 hours of qualified ground runs and 3 hours of solo ground run. Then he can work on the aircraft and do low power run with that kind of qualification. And as I've spoken before, with regards to independent inspection, the inspector must have minimum 2 years of already on the job before he can be an independent inspector for the other tasks. So next, I'd like to talk about the communication management plan. For the stakeholder, which is one of our senior management manager, the frequency of updating would be weekly. This stakeholder has got high interest, so the methods would be maximum engagement. The airworthiness coordinator, our engagement with him would be every 3 days, and every end of the day an email will be sent to him informing of the progress that has been completed by the technicians. The hangar maintenance coordinator, engagement with him would be every day in the morning to get a brief down on what servicing is going to happen for that day, what's the expectation completion, are there any hindrances that will occur during this inspection of the process, and meeting the timeline on time. The avionics supervisor and the airframe supervisor, it will be a debrief to them on project expectations. If there's any service bulletins that they need extra tools, I will be there to assist them with it and demand it and get it in place and get it on time, meeting the scheduled timeline. Summary of agreement were after consulting the key stakeholders, the customers, and the government vice president for the government businesses for this huge delay with regards to the emergency bottle, was to conduct our operation safely, to not rush into it. The customers agree that for the time being we'll fly 6. Once we've got more aircraft online, we can increase the number. Since now we've got only 6 aircraft and surplus manpower, instead of flying 3 sorties, three waves, we are going to do 4 waves of 6 sorties. This will catch up for the students' hours. So that was one of the compromise agreement for this project. With that, I'd like to thank you for listening to my video. My name is Justin for Diploma in Project Management. This is my Module 3 submission. Thank you very much.